Now to discuss further, we welcome National Black Justice Coalition Executive Director Dr. David Johns, a former teacher, a U.S. Senate aide to Ted Kennedy, and former head of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans under the Obama administration. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, Dr. Johns.
Thank you. It's good to be with you again, brother.
It's good to see you. You know, of the 40 million Americans who are eligible for relief, we know that more than 60% are Pell Grant recipients who are eligible to receive up to $20,000 in debt cancellation. But one number that may not make the headlines as often as it should, 71% of Black borrowers are Pell Grant recipients. What do you make of these 6 Republican-led states' determination to block student debt forgiveness?
Yeah, before I answer that, let's start with the assets, which I want to encourage everyone who is listening to this, who might hear this, to go to studentaid.gov. Again, that's studentaid.gov. If you have a question, you think you might have at some point taken a student loan, apply. You might be eligible for one of the prior existing 6 public service loan forgiveness programs, or become eligible after the courts make a determination around the most recent efforts of the Biden-Harris administration. We should all be clear that everyone should also go vote. What we're talking about now, the halting of what we would have seen over the weekend in terms of immediate relief to people in their financial situation, is a result of 6 states that are prioritizing profits over people. These are 6 states that are shucking and shilling for loan service providers, the companies that make money off of following up and taking interest on the loans that you paid. And it's appropriate that we're having this conversation after you showed the clip of still my favorite president, Barack Hussein Obama, because in 2010, when I worked in the U.S. Senate for then Senator Ted Kennedy, we passed as a part of the ARRA package higher ed reforms that took away the role of some of the loan service providing service organizations and allow the Department of Education to do that work using public funds. And so there are blueprints for ways that we can continue to do more. But if anybody hears me say anything, go to studentaid.gov and apply today.
Why do you think, but David, why do you think that they, meaning the Republicans in these 6 Republican-controlled states, why do you think that they hate student debt forgiveness so much, but love PPP loan forgiveness? You know, which benefits, you know, a lot of folks more than the $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. But, you know, if we're talking about PPP loan recipients just in Congress, you know, we've seen headlines where they've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in forgiveness for PPP loans, but they are staunchly against this student debt forgiveness. Why, Sway? Why?
Listen, Adiyala said you got to name a thing, beloved, and it's because white supremacy protects itself. It has never been a question about the extent to which public resources should be made available to those in positions of privilege. You named the most recent, which is the ability to apply for PPE loans or support. But there are decades of evidence of members of the United States Senate and other legislative bodies leveraging resources to support their farms or to otherwise support their businesses that indicate that they understand how democracy works, especially when it benefits them. But in this moment, we are talking about individuals who are often not in positions of privilege, who have not been supported by the radical right, who are not centered in any of the attempts of the Republican Party at this moment to weaken democracy. And all of us should be clear about that, which is why the second thing I hope people heard me say is that everybody should go vote. I can't say who to vote for. I'm talking to this moment, not in my 501c3 hat, but as a citizen who cares about democracy, everyone please go vote.
That's right. And we care very much about democracy here on Fox Soul's Black Report and appreciate you pounding that message. You know, on Saturday, we heard U.S. Education Secretary Cardona called these lawsuits to block President Biden's debt relief program, quote unquote, baseless. He went on to say that the administration was, quotes, not deterred. Is it just me, or does it feel like Secretary Cardona and the Biden administration are really willing to go toe to toe with Republicans on this issue?
Yeah, I mean, they really don't have a choice. We're in the middle of a midterm election season, and if this administration has any hopes of being able to continue to lead, this is an all hands on deck effort. I want to be clear that this play has been run before. We saw this with governors when they were attempting to make President Obama a one-term president who did not want to take relief until there were natural disasters. Think Hurricane Katrina. We saw this most recently with the weather storm that impacted Florida. And so we should expect for Republican leaders to switch when it benefits them or when it's politically convenient. And we should all support people, regardless of their party, who support democracy, who show up for the least of us, or who Howard Thurman would call the dispossessed.
Speaking of supporting democracy, Dr. Johns, we're now almost 2 weeks away from the midterm election. Do you expect that this latest challenge to Biden's student debt relief program, do you expect it's going to motivate young voters and infrequent voters to turn out? I mean, you know, what's your message to young Black voters and Black infrequent voters?
Yeah, I see you. I love you. I appreciate you and all you're doing for democracy. I think a lot about Sister Bell Hooks. Her book is Over My Shoulder, who talked about how often as a result of how our public school system works, people forget that it is our obligation to fight to defend democracy in every generation. And there are so many young people and infrequent voters, however they are termed, who show up and show out in spite of voter suppression and intimidation tactics, some that we've seen decades heretofore and some that are new and innovative. And so I'm really heartened by the polling numbers coming out of states like Georgia, where there have been more than 700,000 early ballots cast. And I want people to hear my heart when I say, keep it up, keep your foot on the necks of people who are attempting to destroy democracy.
Well, keep your foot on the necks of folks. That is something that Dr. David Johns and the folks at National Black Justice Coalition are unafraid to do. We appreciate you for your time. And please come back to Fox Soul's Black Report soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you both.
Thank you, sir.